Hi everyone, it's me, Vanessa. Welcome back to Little Bites of HR, a podcast talking about all things people and culture. In each short episode, we will keep it real about all things HR with an added EDI lens.
Hello, we are back again. And today the topic is grievances.
What?
Grievances. Guys, they are making fun of the way I'm saying grievances. I don't really understand. It's not about how I say it, it's about how we execute the process, right?
Period.
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 Let's
Point.
go ahead. So we're going to talk about grievances today and some steps to consider when you are going through the process, both from the beginning all the way until the end of the process. And I shall be starting with a question as always, which is, why would a grievance arise, guys? What goes on before we get to this point where we have a grievance on our hands?
So usually in my experience, grievances usually arise because an employee is unhappy, and that could be for loads of different reasons. It could be maybe they feel like they're being bullied, maybe they feel like they're being harassed. It could be pay related, poor behaviors.
Yeah, I agree. Poor behavior. Sometimes also you see the grievance comes through because someone feels like they're being unfairly treated, right? So it's that close line of thinking, well, and maybe I'm echoing Serena, but my pay seems to be different to others, or I feel like I'm getting unfair treatment. And I think the grievance should be seen as a warning sign from an employee who's at risk in the organization, right? So if someone's raising a grievance, of course, sometimes those grievances are raised because there is actually fundamentally something that's gone wrong, but sometimes it's also a warning sign about discontent from some of those employees that we have.
And when we talk about, things going wrong, we're obviously now, I guess, in a process of making something right. And one of the first things we need to consider is who is actually going to be managing or handling this process. That's a very crucial part because ideally, when we look at policies, it should be your line manager or a senior leadership, but we want to be mindful of the fact that sometimes this might actually not be the perfect person to deal with the situation because, like we've said, that discontent can come from, someone that's quite close to you, and that could be your line manager, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's sort of important to talk about what's the point of having a grievance process. Why do we have this?
I mean, there are multiple reasons why we have a grievance process, and it allows a fair, equitable way to considering how employees feel within the organization, right? It makes sure that when someone has discontent or there's something wrong, that everybody is given the right support in order to raise what their concerns are. And sort of backing up on Temini's point, which is, well, who takes that grievance? You want to ensure that when you're raising grievance or if an employee is raising grievance, they can do it with psychological safety, where they don't have this fear of, I'm raising an allegation against my line manager. My line manager is going to be the one who sits in front of me and says, so tell me what the problem is with me then. Right? Because we've seen it happen. And, there's a caveat to that, because if you've got a very small organization, and there is only you or one other person in leadership, and someone raises the allegation, you've got a couple of options. You either have to take that grievance that's against you yourself, and then try to remain independent and objective and not defend yourself in the conversation. Or you need to think about whether or not you get an external support to guide that for you to ensure that you remain objective. It's really important.
Amazing. So as we can see, like I said, when things go wrong, it can be a very techie process trying to figure out how to make it right. So let's go straight into the, I guess, second part of this pod, which is, what are the common mistakes that we see as HR practitioners? What are the common things that we see people make when they go through this process?
I would say top number one would be managers usually just want to go straight into the formal. They don't really want to explore that informal process. And likewise, they might not actually escalate the problem quick enough because they might think, oh, it will go away if we just sweep it under the rug. We can just ignore it. So that's definitely my number one, I would say.
I have a couple because, I can never answer with just one because I'm multi-dimensional as a person. So there's a couple of things. One, involving the wrong people in the procedure, right? Sometimes you can have a grievance that comes in and there is a multitude of additional people that you need to speak to, additional witnesses, additional individuals, and just involving multiple people unnecessarily, which can lengthen a grievance procedure. So that's one of the areas that I think is a common mistake when you elongate a process for process sake. That can have a real damaging effect on the employee involved and the team members around it who perhaps are aware of it. but also not realizing that a grievance is a learning opportunity. Am I saying that we should invite grievances into our organization? Of course not, but sometimes if someone dares to raise something with you, and I do say dare, right? But if they dare to raise it through that grievance process, it might be a good learning opportunity for you and your organization to understand how different employees are experiencing different parts of policy, process, system, governance. So understand that grievance process and managing it the right way or listening to it is really key and important in establishing things that could be done better in the company or in the organization.
Absolutely. And I think following on from that as well is a really easy one is just failing to follow your policy. And this can be negligence at sometimes, which is just not really reading through your policy and the little timelines that you set. So for example, you're saying you're going to get an outcome in the next 5 days. Why did it take you 10? There might have been valid reasons, but again, we need to fill in those gaps as to, okay, maybe it took 10 because of this specific reason. And so therefore, we now need to, I guess, not go outside our policy, but accommodate for the time that it's taken and explain why that may have happened, what would have caused that delay, and communicating that as well to the employee during that time period.
Yeah, we've seen some real clangers with lack of communication, like, oh, yeah, we'll listen to your grievance, and then you don't hear from them. That causes the aggrieved employee to get even, more aggrieved, right? Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and it can lead to like long-term sick and things like that, which we want to avoid at all costs. But I'd also say like allowing the subject of the grievance to handle the proceedings. So I've made a complaint about Shirley to my manager, and then the next day Shirley's at my desk shouting at me, telling me to say it to her face. Oh, no, sir. No, thank you. So yeah, we just need to make sure line managers are really handling it properly and in a sensitive manner.
Please join us next time to hear the second part of this discussion on grievances.
Thanks for listening. We hope you gained some valuable information today. We can be found on all social media platforms with our handle, A Little Bit of HR. If you still need further help or want to find out more, then get in touch for a free 20-minute consultation discussion with any one of us by booking online at www.alittlebitofhr.com.